What scientific breakthrough are we nearing that few know about? Story 1. People with age related hearing loss or noise induced hearing loss are among those who could benefit from retroviral therapy. 6 individuals have been designated to participate in human trials, or more specifically, 6 studies have been officially registered with the relevant authorities. These substances stimulate hair regrowth when administered intramuscularly into the cochlea. There are a number of chemicals planned to follow the initial one, which had limited success. One ear suddenly stopped working. I'm crossing my fingers that this can restore some hearing to my affected ear. Story 2. The fight against HIV is making progress. Biktarvy represented a positive trend. We would much appreciate it if Cabenuva improved. We've also received several salvaging medications. In the mid to late 1990s, I assisted individuals who were dying alone due to AIDS. Those unfortunate folks who were only ever exposed to AZT, a treatment even worse than AIDS, have my deepest sympathies. I took a chance when I was 20 years old, without wearing a spacesuit for safety reasons, and held folks who were dying alone. Being a support system for people whose spirits had already departed their bodies during the AIDS crisis shaped me into the person I am today. Reading that we are near a cure brings it all full circle for me because no one would have voluntarily chosen to die alone. Story 3. Drug antibody combinations. Although it's not the most thrilling item on the list, they might potentially transform the way medicines are made. The medication can be delivered more directly to the area where it is needed, eliminating the need for medications with a laundry list of adverse effects caused by acting in multiple locations in the body. For instance, the active element in statins, medications used to lower cholesterol, is metabolized too quickly by many people's bodies for them to be effective. An ADC that targets the enzyme responsible for this is almost ready to be developed, which will temporarily inhibit it and enable patients to take statins for their cholesterol problems. Wow, that's incredible. That actually is pretty thrilling when you think about it. Drug antibody combinations, ADCs, are like precision guided medicine. Instead of carpet bombing your whole body with a drug and hoping it hits the right spot, you're basically sending in a guided missile that locks onto the target. The statin example you mentioned really shows the potential, making a drug finally work for people whose bodies normally break it down too fast. And beyond that, think about how many treatments could be reshaped to work better and with fewer side effects. Story 4. Obesity researchers always seem to have something to say about the next GLP-1s, which make the present ones look like a joke when you bring them up in conversation with Ozempic or Mounjaro. Lots of fun stuff is happening for those of us who work in the pharmaceutical sector. There has been a 10 to 15% improvement in weight loss compared to Generation 4 using the GLP-1 drugs of Generation 5, which are currently in Phase 2. Although resistance training now prevents this, albeit not all patients do it, I've heard they also had less of a muscular withering impact. However, I can't verify this from the study. Not to mention that they are also trying to find an oral alternative to injection. Additionally, they are expanding the list of conditions that can be treated with these medications, including sleep apnea and cardiovascular disease. Obesity is detrimental to health, as it turns out. Since there are shortages caused by demand, the healthcare system will definitely feel the relief as the supply chain becomes more efficient. Exciting stuff, man. Story 5. Although it may not be considered strictly scientific, the industry is taking advantage of the relatively recent advances in computer and data transport to construct grid networks that are more intelligent, secure, stable, and adaptable in the process of constructing new power plants and substations. While the concept of remote monitoring is not new, its primary application has traditionally been to alert a control center of any problems. Collectively, it was unable to assess the reliability of the grid, make use of best systems to react instantly to drops in supply, or use that data. That meant that plants almost never ran at a lower demand than supply, and that operating expenses would be lost if the excess energy couldn't be sold. It's radically altering the nature of power. The next step is to get your representatives to back renewable energy retrofits in your town. Story 6. My kid has a terminal disease, and I often visit these threads in the hopes that something miraculous would happen for him. It never materializes, alas. The next step is unclear to me. Forgive me. When I was a little kid, I don't even recall when I realized I was going to die soon. Children in the wards surrounding me were passing away as I was gravely ill with an unusual illness. A second deadly ailment manifested itself while I was in my early 20s. After using it for over 10 years, I am now its most well known survivor. Upon their second visit to my neuro ICU, my parents inquired as to what they ought to do. The staff reassured them that their presence alone was enough. I was right. The presence of my parents and the assurance of their affection were crucial to my emotional and spiritual well being during both times. Story 7. The role of mycorrhizal fungus and the advantages they may afford. Bioreactive clothes, house brick and installation alternatives, food, and an alternative to some polymers. Biometrics stands to gain from even a basic comprehension of the mycelium network. Not everyone will agree with me, but this seems like a bunch of hoo-ha science with no real practical use. Many find solace in it because it provides a realistic storyline that aligns with their religious and political beliefs. Similarly, they handle the connection between mycorrhizal fungi in natural environments. An excellent job of demonstrating the favorable bias in reporting on this subject is done by this paper. People are looking for risk-free, naturalistic solutions, and they want to incorporate spirituality into biology. Scaling fungus farms to produce materials other than the most niche and expensive items is, even under ideal conditions, an extremely unrealistic and unrealistic goal. Story 8, A Unified Whole. Fusion is 20 years away and always will be, is the running joke, but new theories and materials are speeding up the process. On top of that, funding is finally being allocated for it. Fusion will be similar to flight in that it will take a few decades to go from the Wright Flyer to space. The pace will quicken dramatically once we hit true break-even. More and more private sector funding is going into fusion, which is telling, in my opinion. Up until recently, something was not observed in fusion. My guess is that it's mostly because of the ever-increasing need for energy, particularly from places like the data centers that run AI. You can make billions of dollars if you can figure out how to power these facilities efficiently and cheaply. I believe that the private sector's race to fusion will provide encouraging outcomes in the next few years with incentives like those. Story 9. In my opinion, gene editing technologies will lead to significant progress in the treatment of chronic diseases and other common ailments. These new genomic technologies will correct the underlying genetic mutations that cause the disease, in contrast to present therapeutic approaches that merely address symptoms. Rather, from just alleviating symptoms, that is a true cure. The recently authorized sickle cell treatment is just one example of how these technologies will initially be used to treat illnesses caused by point mutations, but eventually we'll be able to target numerous genomic regions simultaneously, which will allow us to treat more prevalent diseases caused by the interaction of numerous mutations. Enabling cognitive changes to make people more capable is still a long way off, but it is the holy grail of this technology. We could get there a lot faster if scientists would just stop avoiding studying cognitive qualities in gene editing studies. Regrettably, the commercialization of health in the US makes their primary claim that the research would exacerbate social inequality by making it affordable exclusively to the wealthy, the primary rationale for rejecting it. On the other hand, the United States will be able to implement a healthcare system similar to Germany's at some point. Cognitive gene editing will advance once the public's concern that genetic technology will remain beyond the reach of the wealthy fades. If that forecast pans out, we will all possess the necessary cognitive qualities for thriving in the future, including not only the ability to solve problems, but also high levels of social intelligence. Story 10. Putting a halt to and even turning back the hands of time is becoming a reality. Though it won't be available for use until sometime in the near future, many people alive today will be able to reap the benefits of the technology before it expires. Considering the magnitude of its societal influence upon arrival, we clearly aren't making adequate preparations for it. Additionally, we are likely drawing nearer to fusion power that is economically feasible. And while it is difficult to predict, room temperature superconductors could emerge at any time. While anti-aging biotechnology is far more certain, I still think both of those have good odds and might have a huge impact. Regarding artificial superintelligence, that is just scratching the surface. This really captures how close we might be to living in a science fiction future. The idea that aging itself could be slowed or even reversed within our lifetimes is wild. And you're right, society doesn't feel remotely ready for what that would mean. Pair that with breakthroughs like fusion energy and room temperature superconductors, and it starts to feel like we're on the edge of a cascade of discoveries that could completely reshape civilization. And artificial superintelligence? That's the wild card. It could accelerate all of this, or change the game entirely in ways we can't even imagine. It's an exciting, slightly terrifying vision of what might be just around the corner. Story 11: New Hope for Treating Hereditary Hearing Loss. When it comes to treating severe hereditary hearing loss in children, Regeneron's DB-OTO experimental gene therapy is demonstrating encouraging outcomes. Within 24 weeks of participating in the phase half-chord trial, one child's hearing returned to normal levels, while another showed early signs of recovery at 6 weeks. By targeting the underlying cause of the illness, this therapy aims to restore hearing by delivering a functional copy of the otoferlin gene using a modified virus. Current trials in the US, UK, and Spain are investigating the potential of DB-OTO, a gene therapy that has the potential to transform the way genetic deafness is treated and open the door to similar innovations in other fields. Story 12: The use of Orexin agonists in the treatment of narcolepsy will soon be comparable to the use of GLP-1, or insulin agonists in the treatment of diabetes. Most intriguingly, it also alleviates sleep deprivation-related symptoms like lethargy, cognitive deterioration, etc. In healthy individuals who are not narcoleptics, but only at very high doses. These orexin agonists will be the first choice of militaries and similar organizations because they are significantly more effective than traditional stimulants at causing wakefulness with far fewer visible side effects that could compromise your ability to make sound decisions, unless, of course, you have frequent urination, in contrast to Adderall and modafinil, which can lead to impulsivity, hostility, and other negative side effects. Story 13: Not groundbreaking tech, but difficult to implement. Using donor decellularized extracellular matrix, a business plans to enter human clinicals soon to regrow foreskins. While similar procedures have been carried out in other parts of the body, none in a location where the shape is of paramount importance. This procedure involves harvesting a donor's foreskin, removing its cells, leaving behind collagen and other substances, and then using the patient's own cells to generate stem cells, which are then used to seed the donor extracellular matrix, ECM. The inoculated ECM is then placed under the patient's thigh skin, where it receives nutrients and cells to populate it. Finally, it is removed and attached to the correct location. Due to financing constraints, it has taken over a decade to complete, and this spring will see the start of human trials. Story 14: I hope that all the people who are ecstatic about these findings understand that they were made possible by rigorous scientific study in academic institutions. The current suspension in NIH external communication, as imposed by Trump's executive order, has implications for the sector's funding, pace, and rate of discovery. A lot of these interesting discoveries will be lost if this keeps happening. The scientific community cannot be monopolized by corporations because not all innovative ideas appear to be financially viable at first. Story 15: An event that took place towards the year's conclusion 2021, researchers and manufacturers have been honing a new detector technology for computed tomography (CT) scanners for almost 20 years. The new detectors, called Photon counting CT, use semiconductor material to register and measure each individual X-ray photon, rather than just the total X-ray energy over a short period of time. This allows for tremendously more detailed medical images than traditional CT scanners, and the results are truly remarkable. A few of top US hospitals have already deployed the first of these systems, which got FDA approval at the year's conclusion. Story 16: The likelihood of FTL travel has been calculated in published works. During our lifetimes, we may witness the beginning of development. Boeing, the E isn't supposed to be there, has claimed a patent for Star Wars plasma shields 10 years ago and is still investigating them. We may also witness this come to fruition throughout our lifetimes. Time travel is a real possibility according to theory, and the first experimental evidence that quantum entanglement may be utilized for future-proof communication and has a predictive effect has been found on both free and paid platforms. This is the kind of stuff that makes you realize how fast the boundary between science fiction and science fact is shrinking. The fact that serious calculations exist for FTL travel, And companies like Boeing, Typo, and all are working on plasma shield tech. Sounds like the prelude to a whole new era of exploration and time travel through quantum effects. That's the kind of thing that bends your brain. Even the smallest experimental hints of it are enough to make you wonder if the next century is going to look nothing like the world we grew up in. It's like watching science fiction slowly turn into a to-do list. Story 17, an intriguing development in immunotherapy, bispecific antibodies have the potential to be the game-changing medicine of all time. The basic idea is that it has been hardwired to target cancer cells by attaching to T cells, which are white blood cells, and then transferring the virus to them. This is how they function. Effect mechanism. Bispecific antibodies have the ability to attach to two distinct antigens at the same time, in contrast to conventional monoclonal antibodies that only target one antigen. They are more effective and selective because of their dual targeting capacity. The activation of T cells occurs when a portion of the bispecific antibody attaches to a particular antigen on the cancer cell, and another portion connects to a T cell, which is an immune cell type. The T cell is brought into close quarters with the cancer cell by this link. Response from the immune system. Bispecific antibodies aid in the recognition and destruction of cancer cells by bridging the gap between T cells and cancer cells themselves. The death of cancer cells may result from this procedure. Classification of bispecific antibodies, CD3 bispecifics. These antibodies attach to cancer cells and stimulate T cells through the CD3 pathway. Multiple myeloma and non-Hodgkin lymphoma are two examples of blood malignancies for which they are especially helpful. These antibodies serve as T cell boosters by enhancing T cell activation via CD28 co-stimulatory signaling. Solid tumors such as prostate and ovarian cancer may be amenable to their treatment. Advantages: increased effectiveness. The capacity to target two antigens at once enhances the treatment's efficacy. Minimized adverse reactions. Bispecific antibodies are engineered to mimic human antibodies as closely as possible, reducing the likelihood of adverse immunological reactions. They have the ability to enhance patient outcomes when used in conjunction with other treatments, thanks to their synergistic effects. What the future holds. The potential applications of bispecific antibodies extend beyond cancer treatment to include autoimmune disorders, infectious diseases, neurological disorders, and cardiovascular problems. They represent a new and exciting field in medical science due to their adaptability. Story 18. Anode batteries made of silicon have the potential to be a game changer in the energy storage industry. Although Amprius has some comparable working technology, Enovix is at the forefront of the industry in producing batteries with a silicon-dominant anode, which can store far more energy than conventional graphite anodes. This could address a major drawback of existing lithium-ion technology, leading to batteries that last longer in devices like electric vehicles and cell phones. This discovery has the potential to revolutionize energy storage and hasten the transition to renewable power sources, but only if manufacturers can overcome obstacles like silicon expansion during charging and increase production scale. Another important breakthrough that is contributing to the improvement of the safety and reliability of silicon anode batteries is Enovix's BreakFlow TM technology. Overheating and fires can occur as a result of thermal runaway, which is a problem with sophisticated lithium-ion batteries, particularly those with silicon anodes. The battery's built-in safety device, BreakFlow, functions similarly to a circuit breaker. When a short circuit or overheating happens, BreakFlow reduces the energy flow. This stops the heat from quickly getting worse and keeps the battery from breaking. This is revolutionary for high energy density batteries because it enables Enovix to achieve unprecedented levels of performance without compromising safety. As a result, these batteries are perfect for use in electric vehicles, cell phones, and wearable technology. Story 19, oral microbiota transplant has shown promise in preventing cavities in certain individuals. Natural tooth decay does not occur in everyone because some people's oral bacteria do not produce enough lactic acid. As a result, the bacteria of other people are releasing acid at an alarming rate. You can prevent future cavities by eradicating the acidophilic microbiome from their mouth and replacing it with the less acidophilic varieties. Although it works wonders for most people, it won't help those who suffer from acid reflux or drink acidic drinks too often, which can lead to cavities. Story 20. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but AGI, artificial general intelligence, is getting very close. Trump announced a joint venture with Stargate to speed up AI development. China released a free version of their $200 per month ChatGPT subscription that is supposedly even better than ChatGPT in some aspects, and a plethora of other projects in the field are receiving huge investments. Experts such as Dr. Alan D. Thompson have proposed that artificial general intelligence, AGI, might be accomplished this year, adding to the speculation that it could be accomplished by 2030. As you might expect, this is all very hypothetical, and we may not reach AGI for another 50 years, if at all. Given that American officials are known to offer autistic German salutes during presidential inaugurations, I find myself unsure as to whether it would be preferable for China or America to emerge victorious from this Cold War. Story 21. The ability to do low-level telekinesis, which has been passed down through marine biologists to certain prawn species, has been crucial in the preservation and restoration of coral reefs. When it comes to adaptation, the royal red prawn appears to be the most remarkable. Legend has it that these shrimp are descended from pets kept by the kings of Atlantis, which explains their name. They were also used to pull war chariots in bygone days. The bumblebee shrimp is thought to be a close second. Story 22. Nuclear fusion technique that is both stable and productive, suitable for industrial use. I find the idea of atomic splitting to be quite intriguing, archaic, similar to how early humans ground sticks into fire. Although fusion appears divine to me, it ultimately uses the same energy that has been powering stars for countless billions, if not trillions, of years. Though I do not attend church often, I do believe what is written in Genesis 1:27. It appears that the statement, "So God created man in his own image," is more accurate than I had anticipated. And Nion batteries, which stand for sodium-ion batteries, are starting to appear in the basements of most homes. Story 23, a neurological condition that can be cured, such as autism. Contrary to the differently abled or your unique or special brigade, I would gladly accept it, though it is highly unlikely. The medical model of disability is common, and even though I have low support needs, my autism has been a constant challenge and, dare I say it, prevented me from being authentic. Therefore, I want to clarify that the social model is valid. I missed out on possibilities I'll never get back and on everything else I wanted out of life because of how long it took. Neither my savantism, nor my uniqueness, nor the fact that I no longer felt at home among other autistic people made the agony worthwhile. Everyone has their own unique set of circumstances. Although I understand that this is the case for some, it doesn't take into account people whose autism is at a level 2 or 3, which can make it very difficult, if not impossible, for them to live independently, even with accommodations. This is such an honest and raw perspective, and it's one that doesn't get voiced enough. So much of the conversation around autism today is framed around acceptance, which is absolutely important, but that doesn't erase the very real struggles that come with it, especially for those who would gladly take a cure if it meant freedom from those limitations. What you said about missed opportunities and how long it took to figure things out really hits hard. People often underestimate the invisible cost, the years lost, the constant friction, and the feeling of being out of place even among those who share the same diagnosis. Story 24. A true remedy for mental diseases. The most serious one is that it causes your brain to physically and chemically change as you get older. Extremely detrimental to any form of growth is the fact that people with major depressive disorder, MDD, have brains with less folds and are smoother overall, according to studies. For instance, Google up normal brain and depressed brain. Depression isn't the only mental disorder that has prevented millions of individuals from improving themselves, discovering their purpose in life, living authentically, being happy, finding peace, etc. I pray that no one ever has to go through what millions of people are going through right now. Story 25, the UN has officially designated 2025 as the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, or IYQ. Though it has not yet experienced broad commercialization, quantum computing is getting closer to real-world applications in R&D. For example, the Cleveland Clinic and IBM have recently installed the first ever quantum computer specifically designed for healthcare research, which will harness its capabilities to solve drug development issues that have so far eluded even the most advanced supercomputers. Scientists are looking at the possibility that quantum computing could hasten the process of discovering new medications by enabling more accurate predictions of protein folding and more complex simulations of cellular behaviors. Quantum computing has an opportunity to drive quick progress as its adoption is increasing. Medicinal research isn't the only area that could use quantum computing's problem solving prowess. Agricultural scientists are looking at new ways to maximize crop yields, which might lead to a rise in food production and a reduction in environmental damage. Among these uses are computations for fertilizer and field monitoring. By facilitating the rapid assessment of numerous unique scenarios generated by different models and the discovery of patterns within the enormous volumes of global data, quantum computing is also thought to improve the accuracy of weather forecasts.